Chiefs Kingdom. I'm not gonna lie, this offseason is starting to feel like a turning point. I'm Victor, and seeing Kansas City linked to Brandon Aiyuk as a potential trade target, and then hours later becoming the betting favorite to bring Tyreek Hill back? That's not random noise. That's a statement. On one side, you've got a 27-year-old proven 1,300-yard receiver who could raise the floor of this offense. On the other, you've got the most explosive playmaker of the Mahomes era suddenly available again. And all of this is happening while Mahomes is rehabbing and we're coming off a 6-11 season. This isn't just about adding a receiver. This is about identity, about whether the Chiefs are going to reload aggressively or play it safe. Before we break this all down, if you care about the direction of this team and you're rocking with real Chiefs talk, help us hit 1,600 subscribers. We're building something strong here. Alright, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's really dig into this Brandon Aiyuk situation, because this one isn't just smoke. It actually makes football sense. If you watched last season like I did, you don't need a stat sheet to tell you the offense wasn't good enough. But the numbers make it even clearer. 20th in total yards, 21st in points per game. For a team that built its identity around explosive offense, that's a serious drop-off. Yes, Patrick Mahomes was dealing with injuries late in the year. Yes, there were protection issues. But let's be honest, the biggest problem was at wide receiver. Rashee Rice showed real promise. In just 8 games, he had 78 targets, 53 catches, 571 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's production. That's growth. But after him, there wasn't a true, proven, consistent outside threat that defensive coordinators had to fear snap after snap. And that's where Brandon Aiyuk enters the conversation. According to NFL trade rumors, the Chiefs are being labeled as a potential landing spot. The reasoning? He's a floor raiser. And that phrase is important. Aiyuk isn't just a splash move. He's the kind of receiver who stabilizes an offense. Now let's be clear about his situation. He didn't play at all in 2025. Recovery from a torn ACL, plus a fractured relationship with the 49ers. John Lynch even said he's likely already played his last snap in San Francisco. That's significant. That's not vague speculation. That's an organizational signal. Before the injury, though? In 2023, he was elite. 75 catches, 342 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's true WR1 production. At 27 years old, he's in his prime. The concerns are real, though. He only played 7 games in 2024 before the ACL tear. There are contract complications. 3 years left on a $120 million deal. If it's a trade, that's a big financial commitment. But here's the twist. The 49ers reportedly voided his 2026 guarantees after he skipped rehab sessions. That opens the door for a possible release, which would completely change the economics. And from a Chiefs perspective, that's where Brett Veach gets opportunistic. If Aiyuk becomes cheaper to acquire, either via reduced trade cost or outright release, suddenly you're talking about a 27-year-old, proven 1,300-yard receiver stepping into an offense that desperately needs reliability. And I keep thinking about Mahomes. He's coming off a torn ACL and LCL. Even if he's ready week 1, you don't want him having to play superhero every snap. You want a receiver who wins one-on-one, who separates, who makes tough catches over the middle, who doesn't need perfect conditions to produce. Aiyuk does that. He's not just a deep threat. He's nuanced. He runs clean routes. He's efficient after the catch. He can work outside or inside. That kind of versatility would immediately change how defenses approach Kansas City. And here's another key part of this report. Adding Aiyuk would allow the Chiefs to focus their premium draft pick on the trenches. Offensive line. Defensive front. That's smart roster building. Fix protection. Add pass rush. Bring balance back to this team. Now emotionally as a fan, I'm torn. On one hand, I love the idea of adding a proven WR1 entering his prime. On the other hand, ACL injuries are no joke. Chemistry matters. Contract structure matters. And we can't afford another long-term deal that doesn't match production. But if the price is right, if the medicals check out, this is the kind of calculated move that signals Kansas City isn't just hoping to bounce back, they're planning to. We went 6-11, that's not acceptable here, not in the Mahomes era, not after dominating the AFC for years. And what makes this even more interesting is this. While we're talking about adding a new prime-age receiver to raise the floor of the offense, there's another name floating around that would completely change the ceiling. And that conversation? That's emotional. That's explosive. And it might shake up this entire offseason. Alright, Chiefs Kingdom. Now let's talk about the part that really shakes this offseason. And when I saw the Dolphins officially release Tyreek Hill, and then immediately saw Kansas City listed as the heavy favorite to sign him. I felt that jolt again. That old energy, because this isn't just any free agent. This is the most explosive weapon of the Mahomes era. Let's lay it out clearly. Miami released Hill as part of cap maneuvering. Just like that, he became available, and almost instantly, betting odds had the Chiefs at 180 to land him. That's not subtle. That's the league basically saying, yeah, this reunion makes sense. And from a football perspective, it absolutely does. Let's remember what this offense looked like the last time it had Tyreek Hill. Defenses couldn't sit in single coverage. Safeties couldn't cheat downhill. Every snap carried deep ball anxiety. The field was stretched horizontally and vertically. That changes everything for Patrick Mahomes. Since he was traded after the 2021 season, the offense hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver. Not one. We've tried patchwork solutions, we've drafted speed, we've rotated role players, but we haven't recreated that fear factor, and fear matters in this league. Now let's be honest about the risks. Tyreek is 32. He only played 4 games last season before suffering a serious knee injury, dislocated knee, torn ACL. That's not minor. There's no clear timetable for his return. And, beyond the injury, there are off-field concerns that follow him, so this can't be emotional decision-making. It has to be calculated. But here's the other side of it. Even in Miami, even with instability at quarterback, he remained productive before the injury. He didn't forget how to run routes. He didn't lose his instincts. If he's even close to 85-90% of peak Tyreek, he immediately becomes the most dangerous receiver on this roster. And think about the timing. Patrick Mahomes is rehabbing the most significant injury of his career. The offense ranked 21st in points per game last year. We're coming off a 6-11 season, completely unacceptable by Chiefs standards. If there was ever a time to inject proven explosiveness back into this system, it's now. The Chiefs have already brought Eric Bieniemy back. Andy Reid knows exactly how to use Tyreek. Mahomes and Hill have built-in chemistry you cannot replicate through training camp reps alone. That connection doesn't need a learning curve. Now financially, this doesn't have to be reckless. It could be incentive-heavy, short-term, prove-it structure. If it works, you're right back in the conversation. If it doesn't, you haven't crippled your cap long-term. But as a fan, here's where I land. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about urgency. Kansas City can't afford to waste a year of Mahomes' prime, waiting for young receivers to develop while he's rehabbing. We need reliability. We need someone defenses respect immediately. Now here's what makes this offseason fascinating. On one side, you have Brandon Aiyuk, 27 years old, prime age, floor raiser, long-term building piece if the price is right. On the other side, you have Tyreek Hill, short-term ceiling raiser, emotional jolt, proven chemistry with Mahomes. One is strategic stability, the other is explosive revival. Put those together, and you see something very clear. This front office knows the offense has to change. They know last year wasn't just bad luck, it was structural. We're not just tweaking around the edges anymore. We're talking about redefining the identity of the passing game. And to me, that makes this offseason decisive. Not desperate, decisive. It tells me Kansas City understands the window doesn't stay open forever. You either reload aggressively or you risk sliding into mediocrity. As a fan, I'd rather see bold moves than passive hope. Whether it's adding a prime-age receiver like Aiyuk or reuniting with the most electric weapon we've ever had in Tyreek, the message is the same. The Chiefs are not okay with 6-11, and neither should we be. Chiefs Kingdom, this feels like a pivot point, and how we handle this moment could define the next chapter of the Mahomes era. And when you zoom out and look at everything together, Chiefs Kingdom, this isn't just a rumor cycle, this is a reflection of where this franchise stands right now. A 6-11 season, an offense that ranked in the bottom half of the league, Patrick Mahomes rehabbing a torn ACL and LCL. That's not the Kansas City standard. That's not what we built over the last decade. The fact that we're being linked to Brandon Aiyuk tells me the front office understands the need for stability and prime-age production. The fact that we're now favorites to bring Tyreek Hill back tells me they also understand the need for explosion and identity. This isn't a team sitting back hoping things magically improve. This is a team at a crossroads. And honestly, that gives me hope, because the worst thing you can do after a down year is pretend it was just bad luck. The Chiefs aren't doing that. They're exploring options. They're thinking aggressively. They're acknowledging the offense needs a reset. Now as fans, we should expect that urgency. Whether it's Aiyuk raising the floor or Tyreek raising the ceiling, the message is clear. The Mahomes era isn't over. It's being recalibrated. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather see bold decisions than passive rebuilding. Chiefs Kingdom, this offseason matters more than most. Now I want to hear from you. If you had to choose, are you going with Aiyuk for long-term stability, or Tyreek for immediate explosiveness, or do you think there's another move we're not seeing yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk it out like real fans. And if you're enjoying this kind of real, in-depth Chiefs breakdown, no clickbait, no overreactions, help us reach 1,600 subscribers. We're building this community the right way, and every single one of you makes it stronger.